Hi everybody, this is Justin Peden for EDU571. My topic for my presentation today is the Enlightenment period, also known as the Age of Reason, especially talking about Thomas Hobbes and John Locke, John Locke's theory on natural rights and the social contract theory. Pretty interesting stuff because it has a lot to do with our current system of government and what we have in our society today. First of all, we have to talk about Thomas Hobbes. Thomas Hobbes was an English philosopher, best known for his book Leviathan. The Leviathan, of course, was a mythical kind of creature who kind of ate everything up. And so basically Hobbes argued in Leviathan that human nature was not the best, that basically we were inherently evil and wicked, and we needed government to take care of us because we couldn't take care of ourselves. We didn't have the capacity because we were just these horrible people running around, and that the government, meaning the kings and queens, those through divine right, ordained by God, were the ones who needed to take care of us, and we needed to give ourselves over to them. Now, John Locke, an English philosopher who came a little bit later, in his book, Two Treatises on Government, which we'll be talking about a little bit later, argued against absolute rule. He said basically, no, that we can take care of ourselves and we can do these things, and it's important to know that human beings have evolved to the point where we can handle the responsibility of government. All right, both were post-English Revolution philosophers, who were particularly concerned with three different topics. One, man in their natural state of nature, which is how we kind of see things without thinking, just kind of how we experience things. What is the purpose of government? What is the job of the government? Hobbes and Locke had very differing views on what this purpose was, but they were both intrigued by the question. And how should government represent the people? What is the role of government? And I think that's where you find a lot of, you can draw a lot of comparisons between these two and our current situation in the United States today. What is the job of government? How should government represent the people? And that's a very important question to ask yourselves. Both of these men had a huge influence on the American founding fathers. Locke especially, when talking about Thomas Jefferson was a huge fan of John Locke and his work, and you can see his kind of theory peppered into a lot of the early American governmental documents. A lot of the founding fathers were big fans of Locke because of his argument against absolute rule. And of course, we came from a situation where we had a king and fought for independence from that. John Locke and the tabula rasa. So Sir Francis Bacon, during the scientific revolution of the 17th century, established that empiricism, or the reliance on the experience of the senses, was superior to speculation and deduction, the pursuit of knowledge. Basically, that the things we experience are better than the things we speculate or kind of theorize about. Locke, in his essay concerning human understanding, restated the importance of the experience of the senses. He said basically, yes, it is true that we as people, as human beings, are born as a blank slate, or a tabula rasa, upon which experience imprints knowledge. So the things we do shape who we are, not thinking about the things we might do. And this is important to note later on when we're talking about natural rights with John Locke. All right, so why is this important to the Enlightenment? Why is the idea of the blank slate important? Well, it presents a very positive view of human nature, the idea that people can learn from experience and improve themselves, given the chance to, and eventually be able to govern themselves. People argued that human nature would never change and that we would always be the same. That's what Hobbes argued anyway. And so for this train of thought, that the tabula rasa to come along is revolutionary in the fact that they're saying, no, human beings can learn from the mistakes made by previous generations, and eventually we can take care of ourselves. So John Locke and Natural Rights, in his Two Treatises of Government in 1689, probably, in my opinion, the most formative papers written dealing with our system of government. You can see a lot of comparisons drawn in these two essays and our Constitution, Declaration of Independence, and documents of the such. So there are the two treatises of government were two separate political philosophy essays. The second one, probably the more famous of the two, outlines Locke's ideas for a more civilized society based on the natural rights and the social contract theory. All right, so he argued that reason teaches all mankind that being all equal and independent, that no one ought to harm another in his life, health, liberty, or possessions. So he's saying that nobody has the right to infringe upon my rights, basically. So what are Locke's natural rights? Well, you have life, that everyone's entitled to live once they have been created by God. And that doesn't just mean live as in exist. It means live as in live the way you want to live, within reason, of course. Liberty. All humans are entitled to do anything they want so long as it doesn't conflict with anyone else's natural rights, saying that I am free to do as I choose unless my decisions affect you in a negative way. Then that's a no-no. And property. All humans are entitled to own all they create or gain through gift or trade so long as it doesn't conflict with anyone else's natural rights. Once again, so that man, you got to remember the time period these people are coming out of. You're at the end of the English Revolution, the Enlightenment period, where they're coming from a time where the kings and queens of Europe were very much taking these natural rights away. That, people couldn't live the way they wanted to live. They weren't free to think and do what they wanted to do, and they certainly weren't free to own property. The majority of people, anyway, the vast majority of people. So all these ideas are quite revolutionary and appeal to a lot of people. The social contract theory. Now, what the social contract theory argues is that the state, or the government, arose out of the voluntary acts of free people, that we, as free people, create government based on what we all agree on are the needs that we have. And it says the state exists only to serve the will of the people, and that they have, or we have, the right to give or withhold political power as they or we choose. So basically the argument here is that the social contract is an unwritten contract between the people and the government, that we create the government kind of out of thin air almost, create the government in order to take care of us. And then we agree as the people to give up power and some of the decision making and some of our, rights to the government in order for the security and protection that the government provides us. And if the government ceases to provide us with that security through maybe taking away our civil liberties or, injuring or harming us, then we as the people have the right to cancel the social contract and be rid of the government. And in turn, the government, if we are not living up to our end of the bargain as the people and giving over what we agreed to give over to the government, they can also do away with the social contract. So the major concepts of the social contract are popular sovereignty, meaning we as people get to choose and no one can tell us what to think. Limited government, that the government has limits to its authority. Individual rights, meaning we all have our own inalienable rights given to us by our Creator. And the equality of men, meaning we're all equal under the eyes of the law anyway. Locke argued that the reason men put themselves under a government is for the preservation of life, liberty, and property. All right. The Social Contract in 1762, a book by Jean-Jacques Rousseau, theorized about the best way in which to set up a government in the face of the problems throughout society. And so he's basically saying that the divine right of kings and monarchs is not the way to govern. And this, once again, I got to remember the time period. This really kind of draws the ire of the established, monarchies of Europe, because for centuries they had been able to rule simply saying because God said I could, and so you have to do it. And what Rousseau argues is that no, you can't. That we have our own ideas, and people are sovereign. You can't tell us what to do unless we agree to give you the power that you already have. And if we don't, then you're not in charge anymore. And Rousseau is a very influential thinker in the French Revolution as well. And so I find it interesting to look at these people, Hobbes, Locke, Rousseau, and to say, these people have made such an impact on our documents. You can see kind of pieces and parts of their writing all throughout our governmental documents. And the American Constitution is not an original document. It's one that was not necessarily plagiarized word for word, but plagiarized in idea and theory. So one of the things I find interesting about our governmental system, and one of the things I like talking about in my government classes, because it really kind of blows the kids' minds. So hopefully you got a little something out of this, and I appreciate you listening. Thank you much.